thick and thin. So the glue is the stuff that bonds us together. Then we also have some glitter. So what's glitter? Well, glitter are the sparkly things that happen. So it might be when you buy a bunch of flowers, a bunch of chocolates, some jewelry, or you take someone out for a special meal. It's a stuff that makes the relationship shine. Now, one of the things that can happen is you can have a situation where the relationship actually doesn't have much glue. There's not much really holding you together. It's fairly superficial. And what can happen in these situations is one person just starts throwing loads and loads of glitter. Or we'll see on something like Valentine's Day that the relationship has very little holding it together, but yet they throw lots of glitter at it on certain occasions to try and make it feel better. And then our relationships have something very special. They can have, if we're lucky and we're blessed, they can have some magic involved. So Runa and our relationship with Guidely, we are glued together with this desire to help human beings exist better, to love living as themselves, to have better relationships. So that's our common glue. We have glitter, we do events like this and have fun. But there's also can be some magic happens when you meet people and you think, you know what, something is really quite wonderful here. So there is glue, glitter, and magic in our relationships, and it determines how they will actually be. But our relationships don't exist by themselves. We have lots of influences coming at us, things that are stressing and straining our relationships. So our relationships, I think there are kind of 5 challenges our relationships have to fundamentally deal with. The first one is that we're all different and we're complex, and we see the world through our lens. We see the world ourselves. And you know, human beings are complex, and that puts our relationships under strain. And another problem can be that we perhaps don't always have the best relationship with ourselves, and that therefore can cause some issues and challenges with our external relationships. Another one that we can have, which is something that we're going to explore, something called preformed thinking, listening, and responding. This idea that when we start a conversation or a relationship, it's not clean. Something has already formed beforehand that might be influencing or creating a challenge for our relationship. The fourth one is, you know, life gets in the way. Stuff happens. We've got jobs and works and times and kids and this and that and stresses and strains. And that can be a challenge for our relationships. It can start to test the glue. And then one of the big things can be is you just think you get to know the person and then they go and change. Or we're all in a permanent state of change and evolution, and our relationships are put under some stress because we are changing and evolving all the time, and we can grow together or we can grow apart. And we can be dealing with all these other different things. So in the relationship code, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at 3 of those main areas. We're going to be looking at this question around that we're all different, we're complex, and we see the world through our own lens. And we're going to give you a really innovative, interesting way to look at that to help us understand each other. Then we're going to explore this preformed thinking, listening, responding, giving you some guidance to say, watch out for this, be prepared for this. And then finally, we're going to look at this issue that life gets in the way, and we're going to pick one particular topic that we're going to look at, and we're going to get you to guess what that topic will be. One of the topics that gets in the way of our relationships, because ultimately what we want to do through this relationship code is we want you to love living as yourself in harmonious and happy relationships. So let's get ourselves going with the very, very first part, where we start to explore this really big question that we're all different, we're complex, and we see the world through our own lens. So what we're going to try and do here is we're going to give you some sort of guidance, some sort of map, some sort of way to understand each other in a completely different way. What we're doing here is we're going to, and I'll be fascinated for you to pop in the chat area if you saw the email and you perhaps took the vitality test, because what we're going to do is we're going to use some ancient Chinese wisdom, 5,000 years old, looking at human nature, human behavior. Now, it's worth saying here that the ancient Chinese are not the same behavior and sets of things as the modern Chinese. We have a very different setup. The ancient Chinese, what they did was they observed human nature as to what was going on and they recorded it. And then the next generation, they recorded it. So what the information we're sharing here is based on 5,000 years of observing human beings and see how we get on, and observing how relationships work, observing how the world works. And it was recorded. And they recorded it within looking at this aspect of yin and yang, which you may have heard of, and the 5 elements, or the 5 energies, as I like to call them. And we can use them to understand ourselves in a very deep and profound way. And we can also use it to understand other people. Now, over the course of my work, I practiced for 35 years as an acupuncturist. At some points I had up to a 2-year waiting list to work with me, and I had a massive problem in terms of the amount of people that wanted to see me. So one of the things I did was I created the vitality test, which is a way for you to understand yourself. So when you take the vitality test, what you get is a picture of a particular energy makeup. And that is your energy blueprint in a way. The way that you were born, you were given this particular group of energies. And these group of energies contains everything that you need to fulfill your promise, to fulfill the thing that you said you would do when you came to Earth. It also gives you some challenges, some lessons to go by. Now, no 2 vitality test profiles are the same. So we can have a variety. Well, the profiles might be the same, but because our life experience is very, very different, none of us are the same. But what we end up with a balance of these 5 energies. And where we have the dominant energies, what that will tend to do is it will tend to give us our focus, our way that we will tend to see the world. So for example, one of the energies, water energy. Every energy is related to a season, and water energy is related to winter. And in winter, with the water energy, you fundamentally are looking at the consequences of your actions. So in winter, we deal with the consequences of our actions. If we didn't plant seeds, we didn't look after things, we are starving. If we did things well, we have a good winter. So in winter, we live with the consequences of our actions. So water energy has this component too. And every energy has what I call a big question. And the big question for water energy is, am I safe? Is it safe? It's fundamentally looking at the questions, this big, big question of can I survive? So people with a lot of water energy will be constantly asking this question. They may have a fascination or interest in the environment because the most important thing that's surrounding us is our planet. So they're often looking, are we safe? Is it sustainable? Is it able to work? So you may find a massive interest in environmentalism. Or it can be that water is the only energy. If you think about the planet, what does water do? It's the only energy that actually leaves its mark on the Earth. So if you have a lot of water energy in your vitality test profile, you might be asking questions about safety. Is it safe? You might be thinking about the planet, but you also might be thinking, can I and will I leave my mark on the Earth? What would that be about? So that might be the lens that you look through. Whereas if you have energies that you're very, very low in, that tends to be where you have your blind spots or your lack of focus. So for example, if you had a lot of have very, very little water energy, then you might have a complete blind spot about your own sustainability, or you might just be in the moment. You might not plan things out. You might not save for the future because that isn't where your focus is. But if you have a lot of that energy, that's where you might move in that particular direction. So let's just kind of look at each of the energies and let's look out for this big question. This soul-based question that we go through the whole of our lives trying to answer, driven by these particular energies. So water energy, we looked at winter and that big question of, am I safe? Is it safe? It's a big, big preoccupation. Whereas the next energy, wood energy, related to spring. And in spring, at the beginning of spring, everything is very tight and locked inside buds and inside seeds. There's a real tightness to it, a stuckness to it, and then blossom happens. So with wood energy, there's something going on with this big, big question around freedom, this sense of discomfort, of if they get trapped or held back in some way or stuck with a problem. So they're inventive, they're creative, but ultimately they're asking this big question throughout the whole of their life. Am I free? Are we free? So they hate injustice and held back or anything that would perhaps limit their freedom or anybody's freedom. Whereas fire energy, it's related to summer. It's hot, it's passionate, and that's what this energy brings to us. Now remember, we have all 5 energies in us, just certain ones are slightly more dominant and give us our view of the world, or we're lacking in them and give us our blind spots. So if you have a lot of fire energy, you have this hot, you have this passion, you have this big heart, this feeling. And the question that you ask and you're looking to do is, am I loved? Do I bring joy? Do I bring happiness? How do you feel in this moment? How do you feel about me? And this big desire to bring joy and to know and feel loved and to love other people. Whereas earth energy, that's a much slower energy that we have in our profile. It's related to late summer, and in late summer we have those lazy, hazy days where everything slows down. We have time to have conversations, and the big question for earth energy, the soul-based question they're asking all the time is, do I understand and am I understood? To this desire to make sense of things, to feel connected, to be understood, and to come together with that. And the final energy we look at is metal energy, which is related to autumn to fall. And at that particular time, that season, things disconnect, they finish. So this particular energy, it's fundamentally has something going on around disconnection. And they're looking for their big question is what's missing, what isn't done, what isn't there. That's what they're fundamentally looking for. So with each of the energies, we have this big question that our soul is constantly trying to answer. And we spend our life exploring this question, exploring one of these 5 questions. Or if we have a combination of energies, we might have a number of different things going on. So I have a lot of earth energy, so I like to understand, to teach, etc. But I also like to have fun with my fire energy, and freedom is important to me. It's a question that I always ask to look at. So when we have a situation within our relationships, these energies are at play. They create love and they create a bond between us, but they can also create conflict. They can create difficulties, stresses between us. So I had a patient of mine who was a nurse, and she was really, really upset because she came to me one time and she said, "Do you think I'm negative?" I said, "Well, not really." She said, "Well, my family just call me a dream crusher." And I said, "Oh, tell me more." "Well, every time they say something, I just say, 'Oh, I think this is missing. You might want to do this, or you might want to do that.' And they say, 'Oh God, you're so negative. You're always crushing my dreams by saying what's wrong or what's missing or what isn't right.' And they said, 'Am I negative? There's something wrong with me.' I said, 'No, that's your energy. You have a lot of metal energy.' And as it happened, she happened to be a nurse on intensive care. And I knew, because my wife worked at the hospital, and she was one of the best nurses they had. And in fact, she was one of the youngest sisters on intensive care, because she had an incredible ability to look around the room and say, this is missing, this isn't right, this figure is wrong, this number. She spent her whole time looking for what wasn't right and saved hundreds and hundreds and literally hundreds of lives as a result. But she could be perceived as negative. So maybe your energies play out at certain times and maybe they're misunderstood. Or you might go away on holiday with your partner and one of you has a lot of water energy and they have this big question around safety. Someone else has a lot of fire energy or a lot of wood energy and wants that freedom and fun. So you arrive in hospital, and I had this countless conversations with clients of mine. How was your holiday? Well, you know, Derek did the normal stuff of, I said, what's the normal stuff? Well, he arrives there and he's got to look for the safe. He's got to find somewhere to put the thing. And then we had to find the fire escape. And then we had to, we were too high up and then we had to do this. And I just wanted to get out and explore. And he said, well, it's a bit late to explore now. It's quite dark. Why don't we go in the morning and have a look when it's light and it's going to be a bit. So one person had a lot of water energy and was worried about safety. And the other person had fire and wood energy and just wanted freedom and fun. And it ruined the start of the holiday. every single time, until they got to understand their energies and then started to recognize that each person is running with a different question. Or you might have a situation, and I've seen this, where a parent has one energy and a child has a different energy. And the parent who perhaps has lots of fire energy says, well, to their child with a lot of metal energy that wants to be quiet and alone, or water energy and wants to be reflective, and say, well, why don't you want to go out and play with your friends and have lots of fun? That's what childhood is about. Why do you sit in your room, sitting quietly, reading and looking, think, go out and have fun and play with your friends? Because the mother is coming from one energy and the child is coming from another. Now, it's important to say that any energy combination can get on utterly brilliantly. There is no issue or challenge with any combination of energies. It's just a matter of understanding in its simplest forms the big question that you're looking for. And your energy also gives you your X factor, the thing that Runa talks about so brilliantly in her book, the ability, the gift you have in the world. That's what it fundamentally gives to you. To help you, we have a present for you. The book, The Art of Kind and Flowing Relationship, has a section in it that looks at each individual energy and how they get on. And we have, it isn't, because I'm a slight problem with my slides, it isn't there on the page yet, but it will be very, very shortly as soon as I get this sorted. I am giving to you a great chunk of the book that looks about how different energies get on and how they interact, how the challenges that they face. And that's there for you. And all you need to do, and Runa and we will put this link.
I just put the link into the chat area.
Runa, you are so good. Runa has lots of fire.
I'm fast.
Fast fire energy. So that book, that extract from the book will be there for you. And we're also going to give you a copy of all these slides as well. Now, we were at this particular stage, we were going to do a breakout room to look at which soul question that you're trying to answer. But we're going to do it slightly differently because we are flexible and we are adaptable, aren't we, Runa? That's how we do it. So, what I would like you to do is I'd like you to pop in the chat area. First of all, if you've taken the vitality test, do you recognize that big question? Do you recognize those questions? Have they played out in your life? And if you haven't taken the vitality test, can you guess what your energies might be from those questions? Okay. And then what we could do is we could also, why don't we get someone to unmute, put their hand up or unmute themselves, raise their hand and say whether, do you have a direct link to the Guidely downloads? I cannot link on the images in Chrome or Safari. Don't worry, on that page, things are being set up. Yes, we will get everything, we will get things sorted for you. We'll do that for you. Yeah, they might not work because they've not properly been set up yet because we had the slight issue with the slides. So it will be there for you. So Peter, I'm not
going to trust, but it could be wood.
Interesting. Do we have anyone's hand wants to come up and wants to share if we think we got you right with the vitality test? Or if you recognize, Chandel, go for it. Hands straight up.
Yeah, I took the test last night and I am Earth. And my question is, do I understand and am I being understood? And I recognize how often that is for me. And I'm a teacher, so like I teach people and I always ask the question, does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? And sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, I've got to quit saying it so much, but now I understand why I say it. It's because I'm making sure that I am understood. So it was super interesting. I haven't read through all of it yet, but I've gotten through most of the Earth. So yeah.
Yeah, you'll love this. You'll love this section in the book. You'll love
it. And what was your secondary energy?
My second was, let me just double check really fast. My second was wood.
Wood. Yeah.
Ah, nice combination. Nice
Yeah,
combination.
exactly.
I actually, my wood and my water and my fire were all the same number.
But what's interesting, sometimes what can happen there, if a couple have earth energy and one has wood energy, what can happen there is that the person with the earth energy wants to have all the home and the nurturing and the stability and never to move. And the person with a lot of wood energy wants to have freedom and go and live in different places and explore different things. So how does that work out? You have to have that compromise. So my wife and I have lots of wood energy and I love to move and do things, but my wife has lots of earth energy. So we kind of go away for a month. After that, she said, oh, I think I'm ready to go home now. And I think I'm just getting going here, but that's the compromise. I get my month and she gets, so there's that combination. The other thing I think is very interesting with the energies, particularly with earth energy, we get a regular email from someone that says, I think the vitality test has got me wrong. Or I think there's something wrong with the questions, or the questions didn't quite make sense. But basically, and I go, okay, that's fine. I think it's misunderstood me. I've come out as earth. I'm not sure that's right. I think I'm definitely misunderstood here. I think it's giving me the wrong reading. And I think, oh, okay, that's earth. It's a funny one. So Jocelyn, a wonderful thing. I think these energies are very fluid. In some situations where we're working on the farm, my partner is very concerned about safety, but in other situations, like financially, I'm the one who saves, and he's concerned about future stability, financial stability. You are. That is a brilliant, brilliant observation. Okay, what can happen here is that we can, with our energies, we can test our big question. So your partner might be very concerned about safety on the farm, etc. However, he might also be testing his big question to see whether or not he is safe by having no future plans or financial security. I have a friend who has lots of water energy and he has no pension, no savings, because he's trying to work out whether or not he is safe. And I say to him, getting less safe, my friend, getting less safe.
Testing it, testing the waters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Attila is talking about the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things you have to remember at this moment in time, which is why Guidely is so fantastic with what they're doing with this series, is we are in a time of massive change and things altering. So our systems and our relationships are under lots and lots of stress. So sometimes you get slightly, if you think, I've taken the vitality test and I've got this one odd one, it's never like that before. It may be that you're just under stress, or it may be, so that's one thing that we have as a possibility. It could be you're under stress, but we could look at that. I'd love to explore that with you. Runa, shall we move on a little bit?
Yeah, move on.
You move on a little bit. Or unless anyone has any more questions. There's my earth energy. Has anyone got any more questions? Yeah. Has everyone understood this? Oh, God.
I have, by the way, very little earth. So I'm like, yep, go ahead. Yep, do it now. Yep.
Go. Yep. Move on.
Yep, move on. Yep. I'm like, well, we have to understand. Well.
One of the things, we'll come to this when we come to boxes because it's some really interesting stuff. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Yeah.
And we'll share my screen again, and we're going to look at this next little bit. What's gone on here? Oh my goodness! I'm sorry about this.
It's okay.
You all right? You understanding, Runa?
Yep, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
Good, that's good.
Yeah.
You're doing good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
So here are big things. So the next thing we're going to look at is preformed thinking, listening, and responding. So preformed listening, thinking, and responding is basically when either of you, one of you or either of you, have something that's so you're starting a conversation together. You're starting you're together, and it's not clean. Something is happening there. You're already in a state of preformed. So this could happen that you've entered the conversation with something else going on. Maybe you've entered the conversation and you've just had a row with someone else and you're really annoyed with them. And so you're not entering this new conversation or this situation clean. Or maybe you've entered the conversation and you're really hungry. Or maybe you've entered conversation and you're really tired. So one of the things that we need to start to be aware of, when we are in these relationships, to think, well, what is my state? Have I entered the conversation with something else going on? Or you might take into account that someone else has got some big stuff going on, and we can then adjust our behavior. Or you could be preformed with your thinking, responding, because you've already had this conversation before and you've already reacted and you've almost been there before. Or it could be that you're preformed because this conversation or this situation is really triggered by past traumas that you've had, or this subject is really triggering you. So you're not starting with an open mind, fresh thinking and a whole range of possibilities. You've already preformed your ability to listen, to think, or to respond because of the traumas or triggers that are set off. Or maybe you've already decided on what the outcome of the conversation is going to be. You've rehearsed the conversation. And so you're in well, I'm going to speak to them. And when they say this, I'm going to say this, and then we're going to do this. So it's not a fresh conversation. You've already rehearsed it. And you say, I knew that was going to happen. Well, you'd rehearsed it. And then the final one, which is really, really important with this closed thinking or these responses that have come from somewhere else, is that we are putting each other in boxes. And putting each other in boxes comes from the work that Runa and I do around the No More Boxes movement. And it's a really, really kind of simple idea, but very, very profound in its action. And so what would be a box? Well, a box is like a stereotype. We say, well, you know what Americans are like, and the French, whoa, what are they like? So we're making box-based assumptions around people. And boxes are basically there to try and save our brain's calories, try and make sense of the world as a shortcut, as a way to deal with complexity. Because can we really know what every individual American is like? Well, no, well, Americans are like this, the French are like this. And then we start to do things around gender. Well, as Runa said, well, you know what women are like? We're really good at multitasking. Are we really? Are they really? Is that true for every woman? So we can end up with situations where there are consequences to, for example, the gender box around being a woman. There are consequences to that. Mm-hmm. So Runa, do you want to kind of share some of the consequences that might be around this situation?
Exactly. Like you're saying, when I said, you know, I'm a woman and women multitask, if you happen to be in a body of a woman and you're absolutely bad at multitasking, you start to think about something wrong with me. I'm supposed to be good at multitasking because I'm a woman, because that's what my preformed thinking and reacting, and what I noticed in the world is that's how women should act and be. And the same thing goes with all of the boxes. They are, like you said, Nick, and I love how when you say this, that it's a way for our brain to save our brain some calories. But the real consequences are when we expect people to live and behave as these boxes. That's where it really starts to become the consequences are just endless when you think about that.
I can't tell you the amount of people I had in my clinic that would sit there and they say, oh, I think there's something really, we're talking about women here, in terms of this particular box. We're going to look at men in a second, but countless women that are sitting and saying, I think there's something wrong with me. I said, well, what is it? Say, well, I don't want to do homey stuff. I don't want to have kids. I don't want to do you think there's something wrong with me? And when I very, very first met Runa, she was constantly being told by a community we're in that she needed to be more feminine, to embrace her femininity.
Yeah.
And ironically, at the same time, I was being told by my community that I needed to man up, because to be really successful in business, you've got to be a bit tougher than you are. All this kindness, this stuff, you've got to man up. So I was being told to man up. And and this was from people, I had a very successful big practice with a big health center, colleges and everything. But yet I was being told by certain men that I needed to man up to be successful. And Runa was told she needed to.
I needed to be more feminine.
Be more feminine.
Yeah.
But perhaps we just needed to be ourselves. And all that we're talking about is boxes. And we have horrendous stereotypes. I mean, this is an advert from Australia for hearing aids. Men never listen. Still, it's nice to know they can.
So basically, we entered the space where there is a man in front of us, and we say, well, it's useless to talk or say anything because they're not going to be listening. It's just there's a man in front of me, and why should I say anything? He's not going to be listening. That's my pre-thought thinking, isn't it then?
Yeah, yeah.
How is that
So
for
again,
a conversation?
Yeah, as a start to a conversation. And the thing about the boxes is they are incredibly subtle. They're kind of just kind of sitting there. And particularly the gender boxes, we're expected to live in them. We're expected to be like that at some subtle level. We say, oh, we're not really not like that. Well, what happens at the festive and the holiday season? Who gets to do the shopping? Who gets to do the majority of the cooking? Well, say, I'm the man. I actually cook in this house. I do all the cooking. And that might be true, but what about all the other things that go on? Runa, do you think it's appropriate to tell the story of the washing machine, or is that inappropriate? This isn't being...
Well, you caught me off guard here. Yeah, but I'm sure, because I think that's a good example. Exactly. So my ex-husband, there's a reason why he's my ex-husband. When we were, he really wanted to have another child. We already had one, and he really was begging for another child, and I was reluctant to go for the second child. But then he came up with this brilliant plan. He said, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a washing machine.
Buy you a washing machine?
Yeah. And that will make my life so much easier. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
What does a woman want more than a washing machine?
Yep. Bring in the kids.
Yeah. And how many kids have you got, Runa?
2.
Yeah. Did you like the washing machine?
Oh yeah, exactly. It made all the difference.
There we go. So one of the things that boxes does is it creates this kind of black and white thinking. This at its very worst. At its very best, boxes create unity. They create connection. They have tribes. We come together around a common cause and a desire to do things. They unite us. But in their very worst, they lead to black and white thinking. Well, you know what Democrats are like, you know what Republicans are like, you know what this is like, you know what men are like, you know what, and we just start to make these generalizations. So we view that the No More Boxes movement is the antidote to division and black and white thinking, because it just says that, do we really have to put each other in boxes? Do we really have to do that? Because ultimately they chain us down, they hold us back. And they make us feel like we're not good enough or we don't achieve in some way. And they are powerful because the boxes are sitting deep in our unconscious mind. They were learnt when we were children. So we might rationally say, no, I don't do that. But some part of us does do that. And boxes have complexity to them. We might be a man or a woman, but we might also have a certain job and have a certain role, or do certain things, or come from a certain country. So they all sit in amongst each other and create the complexity. So Runa,
Yes.
tell everybody about Mission Impossible.
Yeah, we're going to go into a little Mission Impossible exercise here. Now, what I would love for you to do is to take out pen and paper, or a notepad or something that you have that you can write down your answers. And what we want you to do is to take out all filters when you answer the questions that I'm about to ask you. Take out all filters. There is absolutely nothing right. There is absolutely nothing wrong. This is anonymous. So it's just you putting it down into a piece of paper. And are you ready? Are you guys ready? Everyone has a pen and paper, and you're ready for this exercise. It's silly.
In total honesty, and this is, you just put down the first thing that comes into your mind. Total honesty.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're ready.
Absolutely.
Ready for the question.
Are you ready?
Here we go.
Oh, here we go. Okay. The first 2 to 3 things that pop up in your mind when you think of married couples. Go.
Just whatever comes up.
Whatever comes up.
Just a word.
No matter
just
how
word
silly, no matter what, just what comes up.
What's come up for you, Runa?
Oof. Do you want me to share?
No, don't. We know what your mind is like. We ready for I got boring came up.
Yeah, same thing here.
Did you?
Boring. Yeah.
This might just be our fire energy. Okay, should we do the next question? You should have this down.
You have 2 to 3 things, and then it's absolutely the same thing. The 2 to 3 things that pop up in your mind when you think of couples.
Couples.
Yeah.
Just jot it down. No filtering. Nothing is right. Nothing is wrong.
Yep.
And if you laugh at yourself, that's a good thing.
That's a really good thing. At least Nick and I, we think so. We both have all that fire in ourselves. We think everything is fun.
So there we go. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Yeah. No, you're not going to stop sharing your screen. You're going to share one more slide, darling. Because that's the next assignment.
What's that?
Wow.
Oh yes, sorry, Runa. This is a shambles. A shambles going on here.
Yeah.
You got the wrong slide again. Here we go.
You go, guys.
Here we go. Here we go. Let me just stop sharing my screen again.
Okay. Do you want me to do this?
Yeah. Can you let me just have a? Here we go. This is all going well. So what we would like you to do is go on your phone or on your laptop and go to menti.com. Runa?
Yeah.
But not shared.
No. But I will do this. I will do this. No problem. Let me do it. Go to menti.com.
Thank you, Runa.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
No.
And you put in the code 9898226. Nick, will you put that into the chat area as well?
Yes, I will, Runa.
Thank you. Ooh, sex, death, love. Married couple.
We're being very polite, aren't we, Runa?
Oh yeah, I know. I'm a little bit. I spend so much time with you, Nick, that I'm becoming partly British. I'm in the British box.
Don't put me in that box.
Oh, unfulfilled, boring, trapped.
Whoa. Oh, boring.
Ooh la la.
Come on, we've got
unfulfilled,
death.
Unhappy, conflict, security,
Secure.
secured. Yeah. Intimacy.
No sex.
Whoa.
Locked in. Friendship. Secure.
Nagging.
Holding hands.
Yeah, holding hands.
I like holding hands. I like that. I love that holding hands.
Love
Ball
is
and
becoming
chain.
bigger. Fight.
Love is coming bigger. Look at that.
Yeah. Whoa. We have more coming in.
Ooh, boring just sneaks in again.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the website again. Let me put that for you. Let me put that for you as well, the website.
Yeah, it's menti.com, MENTI.com.
Yeah, menti.com.
9898.
Yeah.
226. Whoa. This is something. Commitment, security, fight.
Mm. And this is a great comment from Attila here, saying, interesting, when I think of married couples, as in couples, plural, I feel boring, but I think of married couple, it feels beautiful. That is interesting, isn't that weird? That's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Married couple or couples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because what we're doing here is we're tapping into the deep down box based perceptions that we have. We're trying to stop any filters of our rational mind and just what literally comes up from our unconscious.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really interesting to see how we then, if you look at just all the different things that are in this cloud, and think about how each and every one of us come to the situation and the relationship we are with married couples, or we might be part of a married couple, how we perceive ourselves even. We put married couples into this box. Are we putting ourselves into that box as well?
Yeah.
If we are married.
Is this who we become when we marry?
Yeah. Ooh.
Michael, great app. Yes, Michael put great app. It's a Menti is a great, isn't it?
It's a great one. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we go and check what came up for couples? What came up? What were the three things?
And on the page we've got for you, we'll put these images for you. Twins together, passion, two,
sex,
laughter, sex, less attachment, romance, adventures, laughter, fun, connection. Remember, this isn't us, our conscious mind. This is just what came from our unconscious, our box space difference between married couples and couples, one word.
I've always thought it was really interesting, and I know that this is very, how should I say it? Box-based thinking here with when it comes to American society. I'm just thinking about one of the things that I've noticed, I hear, at least I see in the movies, is this tendency to say when a couple get married in the US, it's her big day, and it's his last day of freedom.
Her big day.
It's her big day and his last day of freedom. How are we then, if we go into a relationship with that mindset, how is that going to work?
Yeah, we have that in the UK. The UK, that's common. So it's a big day. Oh, it's your last day of freedom. What are you going to do? Ball and chain. So I think we had ball and chain was in there before.
Oh wow. We definitely don't have that over here in Iceland. I don't know. And it's always sexy me. But I don't know any of my girlfriends ever talked about how they were planning their wedding day. That was like, what?
What are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do on your? I was asked, what are you going to do on your last day of freedom?
Oh, really?
Put in. Yeah, I remember someone saying that to me. I said, I'm going to get married. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So
what are you going to do?
pop up in the chat area if anyone, if you've heard people say that in your country, if that's a recognized thing, or do we have that?
And from that point of view, it's no. I mean, are we surprised that we don't have gender equality?
And again, I think Attila's put a really thing that the assumption, well, men like to roam and have adventures. As an assumption, that's what men like, whereas women like to be at home and cook, and men like to roam and have adventures.
Some men.
All men? All women? Some men?
Some, not all.
Not all. Yeah. Wonderful. This is great.
So I'm actually, now I understand why I'm not married.
What, you're having sex and love and laughter and stuff like that?
I mean, the fire in me just loves this bit.
Yeah.
Should we just for the fun of it, just see the difference? So look at this one, and then take a look at married couple.
And it's lovely seeing love at the center of it.
I love that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is interesting, isn't it? I'm going to allow you to go on. I'm going to stop sharing.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Yes. So we're going to be looking at.
Here we go. So we've just done our Menti.
Yeah.
So we're now moving on to section number 3, looking at something. Whether we know our relationship struggle because life gets in the way. We have all sorts of things getting in the way, and we're going to pick just one area in our relationships, one subject that puts enormous stress, or often puts enormous stress, or has been recognized as being one of the things that puts enormous stress on our relationship, kind of gets in the way of happy, beautiful relationships. We're going to pick one subject. Now, I want you to put in the chat area, what subject do you think we're going to talk about? What are we going to pick? What's the one subject that creates problems in our relationships, creates stress, creates difficulties? What are we going to talk about? We could have picked lots of ones.
Yeah, we could have.
Which one? What's the number one? What's the number one? What are we getting? What are we getting coming up?
Oh, we're getting kids, work, communication, expectations, a lot of communications, lack of sex.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, kids. Yeah, it is all those listening. Things that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Too much sex.
Wonderful.
Yeah, there are all sorts of things over here.
Should we do it? Should we do a drum roll before?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should. Okay.
Here we go. You do the drum roll. Here we go. Money. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about money creating a stress within our relationship, creating difficulties between ourselves. And we're going to look at it from 2 points of view. We're going to look at what goes on from an energy point of view, our vitality test profile, in terms of our impact on money. And we're also going to look at it from a box-based point of view, explore that. So what we're going to do is, it's really interesting when you kind of look at the energies, that each energy drives us to a certain extent to overspend in some way. Okay. Now, we all have normal things we spend on, but then there's something that can be driven on some level to overspend. And let's look at one for each energy. So water energy, big question, am I safe? Is it safe? So it's not a surprise that people with a lot of water energy, if they're going to overspend, they will overspend on safety, security, or resources. So again, you might have someone with a lot of water energy, a big percentage of their income is going on insurance policies and safety equipment and this and that, and they will be insuring themselves and protecting themselves from risk or anything. Oh, and the other one is to have an abundance of resources just in case you need it. So when this COVID hit and lockdown, we have a mutual friend of ours. And when this hit, I said, how are you doing? He said, oh, yes, yeah, no, I'm completely sorted. I bought a generator. I've got literally the basement is full of pasta and rice and different things. And
toilet paper.
Yeah, literally everything was paid. Generators, fuel, candles, toilet paper, abundance of toilet paper. God knows what was going to happen with his bottom. It might have been all the rice he was going to eat, who knows? But it was completely, but it's going to happen in everyday life. But it was often, it was triggered because COVID was perceived by this energy to be very risky in terms of certain areas. Whereas wood energy, it's a different sort of overspending. It can be a desire to overspend to have one's freedom, to take or to say, I'm going to earn less because what matters to me is my freedom. Or the big one, spending all your money on a fantastic idea. I've got lots of wood energy and I look where my money's gone on. It has gone on utterly brilliant ideas that were good in my head in reality, but not quite as good in the real world. So, and when we do workshops, and the Runa and I do workshops with this, and people with the wood energy go, yeah, I spent all my money on fantastic ideas and brilliant in my freedom. Fire is completely different. Remember, we're looking at the extremes here. But fire energy, you can end up overspending on having fun or bringing joy or kind of showing off. And sometimes the more money you have, you can still overspend. Doesn't matter how much money you've got. So think about an artist, a pop star or whatever, suddenly gets lots of money and they just spend it all on having fun or giving presents to people or kind of showing off with this and whatever. So that's kind of how they tend to overspend. Earth energy tend to if they're going to overspend, they're going to really heavily invest their money. And this could also be overspending, could be heavily investing in their education, going on course after course after course, spending all their spare money, or spending their spare money on entertaining, particularly on family-based occasions to create happy families. And I had so many situations at this time of the year, I'd see a member of the family would come to me and I'd be treating for one thing and they'd say, all right, well, I'm a bit stressed at the moment, you know, money worries. And I say, oh, I'm sorry. Say, well, my partner, they're really going for the whole family. We're trying to create this whole atmosphere. We want it all to be perfect, etc. It plays out. Or metal energy, that overspending or heavily investing in anything that has quality or elegance to it. And well, and I have a dear friend of mine who has this thing. Well, I only buy the best. I only ever buy the best quality, and will overspend, will stretch what he can afford, will buy things because it has to be the best quality, and anything below that just really wouldn't be right. But with metal energy, you can also have the same thing of they literally will not spend any money because why? Metal energy, one of the things they hate to do is hate waste. So they might say, well, why would I stop having this car? There's nothing wrong with it. It still works. So that can go on. But this tends to be how people tend to overspend. So if we're exploring that, and I think we can, I'll stop sharing my screen because I'm really curious as to, does anyone recognize this spending in themselves? Or if you don't want to say, oh no, it's not me, I'm not like that, but I have a friend who's like that, or my partner, or whatever. Or if someone wants to, just me, or if someone wants to unmute,
Ernst,
I'll put their hand up.
I can see that Ernst is here.
I was going on vacations.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I overspend on vacations.
On vacations, very interesting. Yeah, yeah. And have you, Ernst, have you any idea what your energy might be, your vitality test, your energies might be?
Yeah, go through them. I know I'm not water.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the vitality test.
Mm.
So I know I'm definitely not that, and I don't think I'm metal.
Mm.
So it comes down to the other three.
Yeah. I think if you're overspending on vacations, it's probably either a wood or a fire thing to do. And you know, you can do it with.
What is one of the areas I relate to, and what was the other one besides fire?
That's earth energy.
Earth
But
energy,
thinking
yeah.
about it,
I think I'm
yeah,
wood and earth because I also like to give money to causes that I believe in.
grand, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, I overspend on vacations, but I overspend on vacations for my family because I want my family to have this really lovely experience where we're all together and happy and jolly. And doesn't always work when I had teenagers, but that's where I would overspend to have fun and things. So thank you for that. That's really interesting. Oh, Amber, this is fantastic. This is so funny. My husband is wood energy, and he literally said last night that he wouldn't want to get promotion because he would lose his freedom that comes from his current position. Whoa, Amber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one.
So Jocelyn, I did resource hoarding in March. I also like to buy nice things, especially things I think will last. That's a very kind of water and metal energy, very water and metal energy. My mother had that energy, and she would do that same thing. She would do that same thing. Not that you're my mother, but you know, not projecting here. Yeah.
But this is so interesting because a lot of people talked about communication would be one of the things that are important in relationships, which absolutely it is. I quite often see that people don't communicate money that much between each other. So
yeah,
talking about communication, yeah, I think money is often just, well, I'm assuming that it's this and that.
I think that's absolutely right. It's kind of it's a tricky subject, particularly if you don't understand the other person's energy, where they're coming from, or you've got yourself into a pickle, or you don't want to talk about it, or you might think, actually, I'm not providing security and I really would like to, and so you keep those worries to yourself. But once you understand each other's energies, and I'd really would encourage you at this stage to, if you want to get your partner to take the vitality test, and just have conversations around this stuff as to what kind of shows up for you.
And it's and because you're sharing your book there, Nick, your book is just so perfect to understand how we can understand each other from energy standpoint. It's such a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's wonderful, Cindy. You kind of remain good friends, but it was a source of woes in your last relationship. But good that you remain good friends. I feel my partner overworks himself because he wants to earn money. And what does the money do? It might be the money is giving security, or the money might be giving freedom, or the money might be giving a family experience, or the money might be giving a chance to have fun, or the money might be giving.
And then it's all the program that you have to do this because of working hard. That what used to be my program. Working, you have to work hard in order to breastfeed your children, your family, and that was my program for sure.
In terms of programs, let's share the screen again, and we'll look at we'll look at the next area in terms of the problem we have around money. And this can be, and that's beautifully said, Runa, this idea, this perception we have of ourselves. So we all have these box-based perceptions of ourselves. You put yourself in a certain box, or you are put in a certain box. And the money box is a really, really big one. It creates all sorts of issues. So let's just explore that a little bit. So the money box basically starts to be formed when you're born. The moment you're born, that box starts to appear, because we're like a sponge. We start absorbing, particularly up to the age of 7, we're just constantly absorbing everything around us, all the information, everything that's going on, and we start to form this kind of money box, and the money box carries on in a way right the way through our life, and it's formed in this sponge-like period. And it might be what we observed in our family. What was the family dynamic going on around money? Did your parents talk about it? Were they roused about it? Was it a happy subject? What went on for you as a child as an experience around money? Or was it something that was actually just creating stress, and you recognize it creates that enormous amount of stress? My father, his father died when he was relatively young and left a little bit of a financial mess. My father was brought, his first experience of money was that money is really, really, really stressful. And we didn't have much money when we were kids and growing up. And Dad would always talk about how stressful money was now, really, really, really stressful. And then my mother wrote a book that became an international bestseller, and we had suddenly vast amounts of money. And my father said, and I remember he said, "Oh God, this money that your mother's made, it's so stressful. Well, I don't know what to do. We've got this tax and all this thing. She's created such enormous problems by that book." And he was stressed by money, regardless of whether we had too much or too little. So we have our programs, and our programs are informed by the media and different things that go on. So think about all the films that have this box-based stereotypes, that here is a rich person that's a bit of a fool or greedy or stupid, and he gets taught, or she gets taught a lesson by a poor person, or a poor person is happy and a rich person is miserable, but they come together and they create, the stories have exactly the same narratives going on, and we have belief systems about people based around things. And then we have history. If you look at some of the oldest writings and the things in some of the biblical things, some of the Shakespeare, etc., there's stories about wealth, Scrooge and things like that. We're informed by it, and it determines whether or not, for example, we say, "Oh, are you a saver or are you a spender? What are you?" And we can often live in alignment with our boxes. So you have this classic scenario that someone suddenly wins a vast amount of money somehow, and all of a sudden they've got this money, and then within a short space of time they've got rid of it again, because they need to live in alignment with their perception of the box of who they think they are and how much they think they are worth. Or you have someone that's very wealthy suddenly loses all their money, and then very quickly it comes back again. So we tend to live in alignment with our boxes. So let's just explore that. Let's have another, Runa, let's have another Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Another Mission Impossible. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do that. Okay, paper and pen ready. Just like
Same rules.
before, same rules, no filters, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It just is. It's just a thing that popped up in your mind. Ready?
And here's the question.
First 2 to 3 things you think of when you think of rich people.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Don't ask me what I had come up in my mind.
Well, I'm actually quite worried about me when I said that. Same thing as with married people.
Was it?
Yeah, boring.
You don't find me boring, do you, Runa?
No. Actually, I think this is the old me. The old me was at that program.
Yeah, because we're just digging out from our unconscious mind. Okay, enough time with this. Should we do question number 2?
Let's do the next one. Ready?
Here we go.
The 2 to 3 things that pop up when you think of poor people. Whoa.
Just what pops up. Nothing right, nothing wrong, totally anonymous, all by yourself in your head. This is not who you are. This is your programming. This is just the box, the stuff, the films you watched. This isn't who you are. This is just what was created by your external environment, by the boxes, the stereotypes.
Okay.
Let's do a bit of menteeing.
Yeah, you go back into mentee where you were, and we're just going to continue right down the, oh, I can see people are already.
You're already there?
Yeah, share, rich people, greedy, silver spoon.
Freedom.
Yeah,
Philanthropy.
luxury, no luck, hoarding, smart, successful, philanthropy.
Luxury, freedom coming in and out.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. White. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
White. Yeah.
Comfortable. Happy. Inconsiderate. Wrong values. Frivolous. Isn't it amazing what we've got hidden in our unconscious mind? Sitting there at the bottom. Wow. You know, Runa, it's really interesting. We do a lot of these Mentimeters, and Shannon and Amir, can I just say, the Guidely community are fast, aren't they? They're just going for it, and such variety.
Yeah.
Love it. Love the engagement.
Love it. Exactly. Selfish.
Love it.
Yeah.
Luxury.
Flying first class. Facebook. Arrogant. Jerks.
May I ask a quick question while people are putting in their answers, Nick and Runa?
Yeah.
Absolutely, Amir. Go for it.
So when we look at, you know, those boxes that we put others in, don't we really put ourselves in those boxes?
Yeah, that is absolutely spot on. Or what we do is we can't put, so say we had a negative box-based view on wealth, on rich people, why would we ever put ourselves into that box? Why would we ever do that? Well, or remember, this is just one box that we'll, or we find ourselves in that box and we're then really, really stressed. Like my father, really, really stressed by us suddenly having all this money.
And I also think this is such a great question, actually, because I think if you have this program, you might think that, oh, now I'm in this box and I actually should behave like this.
Yeah, I should behave like this.
I should behave like this. I should be selfish. Well, I've earned my money. I should be selfish, or I should be this, or, you know, no one can tell me what to do because I'm this.
Yeah. Or a philanthropist, or buy luxury things.
Yeah. And it's really, really interesting to see where it's come from. But let's go into poor people. What do we see there if we put in the 3 words that pop up?
Interesting, my mother had a view on wealth. She said, when you have make money, you need to invest it. So she invested all the money in the Japanese stock market. That worked out very well. Just before it crashed.
Just before it crashed, okay.
Before it went. So we've got kind of dirty, heart-centered, sad, struggling. Yeah.
Unfortunate, need our help. Lazy. Victimize themselves.
Yeah.
Workers. Hardworking, genuine. Unhappy, needy. Cigarettes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Needing help.
Yeah.
Victimize themselves. Hardworking, lazy. Sympathy.
No home.
No home.
Grateful. See how grateful is big.
Stuck, homeless, nerdy.
Yeah, quite something.
Fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. So both of them, going back to this is how we perceive things, this is how we judge people. Actually, we do this the first 7 seconds we see another person, we actually put them into 11 different boxes without knowing, it's exactly like this. So you walk towards a person with that mindset. This is who he or she is.
Runa, I think there's a really, I keep asking you to tell your family stories. I've told mine. You tell about your parents-in-law. I think I do this to you, about your parents-in-law, because I think that was really interesting what their perception of you was.
Yeah, my ex-parents-in-law, you mean?
Ex-parent. Yeah, get that right.
Well, I funny enough, I mean, I divorced over 20 years ago, so this is a long time ago, but not that many years ago, I found out that my ex-family-in-law, they looked at me as being coming from a wealthy background, because I lived in an area that was, well, people have above average income. And my father was working for a wholesaler. So they felt, this was never talked about, but they felt that I was their superior. And that's how they actually, I thought it was really interesting when my sister-in-law just told me this, that's how they felt. And we never discussed. But it was all there, how they perceived me to be.
Yeah. In our street, we were perceived to be the very rich children, because my father loved classic cars and he bought a 1952 Bentley for next to nothing. But our car was a Bentley. We used to drive around in a Bentley.
Yeah.
But that was the perception of what items mean. What items mean. That car must mean you're wealthy or whatever. So
I'm going to stop sharing here, but this is really, really interesting. And I can see that we have 5 minutes just to give you a heads up, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm a timekeeper as well.
So, you are. You're jolly good.
Yeah.
So at this particular stage, I just want to kind of recapping on what we've done so far. So we kind of looked at this glue, glitter, and magic. Looking at, do you have is your relationship held together by the glue, and what glue might that be? And then are you doing the glittery stuff? Is that happening? And could you have some magic going on? And then we looked at those kind of challenges that we have in our relationships. And then we focused down on 3 particular ones. We looked at that we're all different, we're complex, and we see the world through our own lens. And we used the 5 energies as a way to give us a bit of a window to say how we might see each other and look at each other. Then we looked at preformed thinking, listening and responding, and we went down into exploring in the boxes, particularly how they can preform our thinking about other people and make us narrow in our thinking, and potentially we could be black and white thinking. And then finally we started to look at a particular subject that can get in the way of our relationships, and we picked money. And we looked at money from an energy point of view and say, which energy overspends in what way and what would happen within your relationships? And then we looked at money purely from a box-based perception and how we can get trapped in our thinking around boxes as they sit there in our unconscious mind. Runa, do you want to just share about the game that we've got coming up?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have been looking at how can we create space to have conversation that opens up the boxes and gives us more space, breathing space, to be more of who we were born to be and less conditioned. And we came up with this game called the Money Box game. And we are just about to do a partnership with Guidely on that, playing the game. And just to give you a very brief insight into what it is all about, it takes place in 30 days. It's all imaginary. You get, it starts by getting $10 and you're supposed to spend it. We use the platform on Facebook in a closed Facebook group. You're supposed to spend it and share what you're spending it on. And then day by day, the amount doubles. Well, and where are we in day 15? Do you remember what was the amount in day 15 as an example, Nick?
Oh, we were over 10 million. By day 15, you have about 10, I think it's about 10 million. that you have to spend in that day. You can't save it, you can't put it aside, you've got to spend it and say what you're going to spend this money on. Remember, it's imaginary money. We're not really giving you $10 million.
No, yeah, exactly. We're and funny enough, Attila, she was in our last one. Maybe she would like to share it.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, she was in our last one because I can just see that.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Yes. Basically, I'm still with it. But it was, for me, it was super interesting, and not because they are here, you know, I'm really honest. And it was very interesting. Some people were kind of, going through ups and downs. I think that it's very interesting because in my real life is completely different. But I mentioned when we talk that, even if I need to sort a lot of things out in the real life, but when I was walking on the street after, during the process, I was like, I had that feeling of, I don't know. It was really like challenging my long, deep family connection to lack mentality. And it's very rooted. And when you were talking before about families, like, in my family, I hear that like, no, we are poor people, and, all these little things, not only with money, but, I always leave what I like more when I'm eating, for instance, to the end. And I was thinking today about that, like, why am I doing that? Maybe, to have the feeling of there is something still, because I have this mentality of smallness and poorness. So the challenge was amazing. I discovered that I had like a lot of ideas to build things. And it was also a way to know yourself, like, like, where do you put the money? If you have money, where do you put the money? What do you want to create with that? Apart from, like using the energy, some earth energy or metal energy, they will behave differently. But it was really like being very honest with yourself. The only thing that I would have liked is like, the community feeling that we were achieving. I wish I saw that before, because it was super, super interesting. And I was like in my own head.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
really powerful. Thank you, Attila. That was so good. Well, I'm just going, like, I'm just aware of the time, but I'm going to share with you guys. We just opened up for a waiting list. So you can just sign up if you want, or just sharing a link, or maybe you just want to click the link so you have it opens up on your desktop, or when we finish the call. But there, if you're interested to be part of this when we start the next one, that's it.
Yeah. And that's us. Come to the end of it. So I hope you found that helpful, beginning conversation, opening things up. So thank you so much.
Thank you both, Nick and Runa. This was incredible. We're excited to have you as guides on Guidely, and we're excited to be launching Guidely here in January, where we'll offer one-on-one and masterclass with guides from all over the world. We're starting with a small group of guides of 80 people from 11 countries to help each of you, ourselves included, to get our better version installed. So, and we'll have next week, what do we have next week?
From stress to steadiness, another free workshop. You guys can join on Tuesday. Information will go out in the next day or so via email. So it should be a good one. Coming up into the holidays, or already in the holidays. I know stress and money are both very relevant topics. So relationships. So thank you guys
And-
both.
And we're excited to have the money game starts January 21. So 1/21/21.
Yeah.
We'll announce that very soon. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Runa.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say I like to end my things, especially when I'm doing things internationally, is to teach people one particular word that is Icelandic. And that's the word when we say goodbye, we say bless, bless. So on that, I'm going to say bless, bless. Thank you for spending this time with Nick and myself.
Yeah. And with events like this, you're really only as good as the audience. You're really only as good as the people that turn up. And I would just like to say, we have been fantastic.
Agree very much.
So round of applause. Thank you.
Lovely. Look
you.
forward to seeing you in the Guidely community, the Money Box game, to be together.
Bye-bye.
Bless,
Thank
bless.
you.
Bless, bless.
Bless, bless.